in stages. I hope it's back connected now, inshallah. Allah gave the Quran to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in stages, in order to make his heart firm. So likewise, the knowledge that you take is taken in stages. You're not going to take that knowledge in one go. You're going to take that knowledge slowly in stages. From the poetry of Ibn al-Nahas, or Ibn al-Nahas al-Halabi, rahimahullah ta'ala, is the translation of which is, today is something and tomorrow is like it. In the choicest parts of knowledge which are gradually collected, a person achieves with this a wisdom, for a torrent of water is nothing more than a gathering of drops. A torrent of water, and a big flood, is just a drop, and then another drop, and then another drop, and then another drop. And that's how you end up with a flood. إِنَّمَا الْجِبَالُ مِنَ الْحَصَى. Mountains are made out of pebbles. Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, I kept on coming back to Amr ibn Dinar 500 times, and I didn't hear anything more than 100 hadith from him. In every 5 sittings, 1 hadith. I think it came to a different channel, different stream. You have to go out and go back in again. And Hammad ibn Abi Sulaiman said to a student of his, every day learn 3 matters and do not add anything to that. The Shaykh, he said, Hafidhullah ta'ala, adhering to being unhurried and taking things in stages necessitates beginning with small texts which are written in the different sciences as regards memorization and seeking an explanation, and avoiding reading the larger works that a student has not yet reached. This is very important. Circle this paragraph or mark it in the text. If you want to be unhurried and take things in stages, what you have to do is to begin with small texts and small explanations, not just small texts, but small explanations of those texts. And you must avoid the larger works that you're not ready for yet. I know it's tempting. You have a nice big book on the bookshelf, but if it's not the right time for you, then it's no good for you to be learning that book at that time. Whoever embarks upon looking at the larger works has transgressed against his religion and gone beyond the moderate way of knowledge, and this may well lead him to being lost. From the exquisite words of wisdom is the statement of Abdul Karim al-Rifa'i, one of the shuyukh of the knowledge of the past who lived in Damascus in the Levant. And he said, Ta'amul kibar sum sigar. The food of the old is poison for the young. He spoke the truth. For the suckling baby, if it eats the food of adults, no matter how tasty and good it is, it will destroy and damage him. Likewise, the one who takes on complex issues from larger works, exposing himself to the differing of the scholars and their multiple schools of thought in transmitted reports and their rationality. Very true what the Shaykh said, very important. If you start with ikhtilaf, the first thing you do is read a book which has all the different views of the scholars and their differences of opinion in it. How are you going to find yourself? I'm going to tell you now, you're going to struggle, my brother. You're going to struggle a lot. You're going to find yourself drowning in different opinions, and there are 10 different views, and this scholar said, and this one said, and I don't know what's right. Either you're going to end up just choosing whatever you like, or you're going to end up not doing anything at all and being frozen because you can't find out which one is right and which one's wrong. If you take it slowly and you go in stages, that knowledge will come to you and you'll be ready for it. Don't go beyond your stage. Stick at where you are. Bit by bit, you'll easily reach those larger works. And this is something I want to emphasize to you. It's very important. I want to emphasize it very strongly to you, inshallah, is that Understanding complicated books is built upon very easy, very simple books that you took in the beginning of your journey to seeking knowledge. So what I mean, if you know your beginner books really well, and you know your intermediate level books really well, when you come to your advanced books, inshallah, you're going to find those books very, very easy to do. You're going to find them very easy. But if you don't know those beginner books well, or those intermediate books well, for sure you're going to struggle. That's the truth. Al-Maqid At-Tasi' الصبر في العلم تحملا وأداء. Having patience in knowledge, both attaining it and passing it on. Can anyone see if we can get the 8? Will we be able to get it without looking at the book? Purifying the vessel, sincerity of intention, gathering your attention together, Quran and Sunnah, taking the proper path. Oh, now it gets hard.
The sciences.
Having a share of all the sciences and putting ahead the one that's more important and the one that's less important than the one that we took, which was taking advantage of youth. Before that, did we have a ta'anni? No, ta'anni was then after that. And you've taken advantage of your youth, and then we had the 8th one, which was taking knowledge slowly, not hurrying, not rushing. And the 9th one, patience in knowledge, both attaining it and passing it on. Since every honorable thing is only achieved with patience, and the greatest thing which a person has to bear when seeking out things of high value is keeping themselves patient in doing so. For this reason, patience and perseverance are commanded, at times in order to achieve the foundation of Iman, and at other times in order to achieve the completeness of Iman. As Allah the Exalted said, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu asbiru wa sabiru. O you who believe, be patient and persevere. And he said, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Keep yourself patient by being along with those who call upon their Lord in the morning and evening, seeking his face. Why did the Shaykh bring these 2 different ayat? What's the connection here? The first one, he said, Allah describes it with the foundation of Iman. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. If you want to be a person of Iman, you need to have sabr. In the second one, Allah Azza wa Jal describes perfecting your Iman. Don't just be a person of Iman, but be around the people who remember Allah. Does that make sense to you all? It could only make sense if you were listening to what I said. If you weren't listening, it wouldn't have made sense. So the first thing is, the first ayah describes Iman itself. The second one describes a part of perfecting your Iman. Both of them require patience. Yahya ibn Abi Kathir, rahimahullah ta'ala, said in explaining this ayah, it is the gatherings of knowledge, and nobody can achieve knowledge without patience. And he also said, لا يستطاع العلم براحة الجسم. Knowledge is not gained by resting the body. Therefore, patience takes a person out of the dishonor of ignorance. And Asma'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, whoever cannot bear the lowliness of learning for a time will have the lowliness of ignorance forever. With patience, the pleasure of knowledge is achieved. One of the pious predecessors said, whoever cannot bear the pain of learning cannot taste the pleasure of knowledge. And it has been said, before reaching the honey, you must bear the sting of the bee. And it used to be said, whoever does not face difficulties will not achieve their desires. Patience in knowledge is of 2 types. This is one of the real benefits of the book. The Shaykh breaks it down. There's 2 types of this. There's 2 points in this. This is broken in. It's very good. Patience in gaining and acquiring knowledge. Memorization requires patience. Understanding requires patience. Attending the gatherings of knowledge requires patience. and giving the Shaykh his rights requires patience. No doubt. Does hifz come in a single day? No, it comes with patience. Do you understand everything the first time you sit down to hear it? No, it takes patience. Coming to the class, is it easy? No, it requires patience. Many hours of sitting, pain in your legs. Giving the teacher his rights requires patience. And patience in delivering knowledge, spreading it and conveying it. Sitting to teach students requires patience. Helping them to understand requires patience. And putting up with their floundering requires patience. So he said for the Shaykh, sitting down to teach needs patience. And helping students to understand. You see, not everybody understands the same. If I look at the room now, I can see people who understand and people who don't. I can see people paying attention and people who aren't. I can see people who are sitting properly and trying their best and people who are more relaxed. To be patient, to let everybody come, to try and get as many people as possible to understand, it needs patience. And putting up with the mistakes of the students, the zallat, the slips. For example, someone doesn't behave properly in the gathering, someone's phone goes off, someone gets up and goes out, someone goes to sleep in the back. All of this requires patience. Maybe some teachers would just get up and say, هذا والله أعلم والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد, and goes. It's happened before. It's happened before with many times. For the teacher also requires patience. And it's amazing what he said. He said above and beyond these two types of patience is having patience with having patience. Patience in having patience. And remaining firm in having patience with them. And he quoted the line of poetry, لِكُلٍّ إِلَى شَأْوِ الْعُلَى وَثَبَاتٍ وَلَكِنْ عَزِيزٌ فِي الرِّجَالِ ثَبَاتٌ. Wallah, it's so true. Everyone has moments where they go towards highness and determination. Everyone has moments where you sat on that road to becoming a scholar. You were there, you started it, you were ready, you just had to keep going. What's the problem? It's so rare to find a man who will keep on going. That's the problem. Everyone has moments. You sat, you learned, you start memorizing the Quran, you started the first page of Surah Al-Baqarah, or you started, the first page of, for example, after Juz Ammat, Juz Tabarak, or whatever it is, you started doing it and you had a chance to be someone great. ولكن عزيز في الرجال ثبات. ولكن عزيز في الرجال ثبات. How rare is it that you find men who are determined enough to see it out. This is our problem. Khwani, wallah, reality is this is our issue. All of us at one moment or another have done what you need to do to become a person of knowledge. Today, you have done what you need to do to become a person of knowledge. You sat down, you wrote, you listened, you tried to keep it in your memory. ولكن عزيز في الرجال ثبات. But just the issue is who is going to keep going. It's so rare to find someone who will keep on going. Whoever adheres to having patience will gain the success of being rightly guided. Abu Ya'la al-Mawsi, the scholar of hadith, said, I have indeed seen, and in the passage of days there is experience. In patience there is an outcome with praiseworthy effects. Few are those who work hard in seeking this thing, taking patience along. They are those who triumph with success. Al-Ma'qid al-Ashir, the 10th principle. Mulazamatu Adab al-Ilm, adhering to the etiquette of seeking knowledge. Sticking to the etiquettes of seeking knowledge. Ibn al-Qayyim said in Madarij al-Salikin rahimahullah ta'ala, the manners of a person are the sign of their ultimate happiness and success, and a lack of manners is a sign of their wretchedness and destruction. The good of this world and the next have not been caused by anything quite like manners, and being denied these two things have not been caused by anything quite like a lack of manners. Your success in this dunya and the akhirah is dependent upon your manners. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was only sent to perfect good manners. That's why I was sent. Manners with Allah, manners with the self, manners with the teacher, manners with the students, manners with the books. I was only sent to perfect good manners. A person cannot rise to nobility without manners, even if he's one of noble ancestry and lineage. The only one suitable for knowledge is the one who adheres to his etiquettes in himself and his study, with his teachers and his companions. So you can underline those as 4. You can number them 1, 2, 3, 4. Etiquette with yourself, etiquettes in terms of your study, etiquettes with the teachers, and etiquettes with the companions. And to go into this in more detail, there's some details here in the book. You can also take the book Hilyatul Talib al-Ilm by Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd, rahimahullah ta'ala. Yusuf ibn al-Husayn said, Yusuf ibn al-Husayn said, Bil-adabi tafhamu al-ilm. Through etiquettes you understand knowledge. This is because a person having good etiquettes is considered to be someone deserving knowledge, so it's granted to him. But the one who is ill-mannered, knowledge is too honorable to be lost with him. A man asked Al-Buqa'i if he could read to him. So Al-Buqa'i permitted him to read. The man sat cross-legged. So Al-Buqa'i refused to let him read and said, you are more in need of etiquette than the knowledge you came to seek. And he sat in a way that Al-Buqa'i said is not right. And for me, everyone has different ways of sitting. Like for that teacher, he doesn't like his students to sit like that. So when he sat that way, he said, you don't need knowledge from me. You first of all need to learn how to behave. You first need to learn how to behave, and then you can learn knowledge. It's because of this that the pious predecessors used to give importance to learning etiquettes, just like they would give importance to learning knowledge itself. Ibn Sirin, remember this quote. He said, كَانُوا يَتَعَلَّمُونَ الْهَدِي كَمَا يَتَعَلَّمُونَ الْعِلْمِ. They used to learn the way of behaving just as they used to learn knowledge. Rather, a group among them used to give precedence to learning etiquettes over learning knowledge itself. Malik ibn Anas said to a young man from Quraysh, O nephew, learn etiquette before you learn knowledge. And they used to demonstrate their need of it. Makhlad ibn al-Husayn said to Ibn al-Mubarak one day, we are in greater need of a great deal of manners than a great deal of knowledge. They used to advise others about this and guide others to it. Imam Malik said, my mother used to put the turban on my head and say to me, go to Rabi'a. Rabi'a, Ibn Abi, there's a mistake in my translation there, it should be Ibn Abi Abdurrahman. The great scholar of fiqh among the people of Medina at his time, and learn etiquettes before you learn his knowledge. The one thing that has prevented many students of our time gaining knowledge is they lost the etiquettes of doing so. Underline that sentence. The one thing that prevented many students of our time from gaining knowledge is they lost the etiquette of doing so. Such that you see one of them reclining in the presence of his sheikh, stretching his legs out towards him, raising his voice in his presence, not withholding from answering his mobile phone and other things. So what manners do such people have by which they can achieve knowledge? Al-Layth ibn Sa'd rahimahullah ta'ala said, he came across some people of hadith and he saw something which it appeared as though he disliked. He said, what is this? You are more in need of a little manners than you are in need of a lot of knowledge. What would Al-Layth say if he saw the condition of many of the students of knowledge in our time? Very, very important. My brothers, wallahi, very important. So many of us lose knowledge because of this. Rather, Shaykh mentions this in the book, and I've seen it myself, that your teacher shuts down or opens up according to how much you give good etiquette. So when you're all sitting nicely and writing and paying attention and alert and trying to understand, what will you see? You see the teacher opens up, he gets extra benefits, extra effort, helps you out, makes the lesson a bit longer, try to finish the book, all of the things that the teacher tries to do. Like when the teacher says, like the students are just look like they don't want to learn. So the teacher clams up, doesn't give you the knowledge. Many people, you can see from the questions they ask, and the Shaykh's going to mention this later on. You can see from the quality of the questions they ask, that you can see that the person, there's bad etiquette, bad manners, and then the person doesn't, the teacher just clams up and doesn't give what the student needs. Many of us, the reason we don't learn is we don't learn good etiquettes with ourselves, with our books, with our classmates, with our teachers, with the knowledge we're learning. And if we learn those good etiquettes, insha'Allah ta'ala, we can be from those people who really achieve this knowledge. Now here we come to a decision, a branch in the road. And we've reached around about halfway in the text. Now, for me, what I think would be beneficial to do, now I've explained this text more than once. On AMAU, I explained it in more detail than this. I think we took like 20 lessons and we explained it in detail. What I prefer we do is, I don't know if Allah Azza wa Jal will gather us together to be able to finish it again. So what I would like is that from here, we read the principles that are left and we just make one or two key points on each principle. And you can read the text yourself. You can see the language might be a little bit sometimes, but the main principle is understood. So let's do that so that we don't lose out on the overall benefit of finishing the book. And then if Allah Azza wa Jal writes for us to be able to sit and do it in more detail on another day, we can sit and do another half of it on another day, inshallah. But let's at least finish what we can by just reading the principles out. Al-Ma'qid Al-Hadi Ashar, the 11th principle. Siyanatul ilmi amma yashin mimma yukhaliful muru'ah wa yukhrimuha. He said, rahimahullah ta'ala, the 11th principle, protecting knowledge from the things which tarnish it. From that which, the title actually is missing a part on the title, from the things which tarnish it, from those things which oppose good etiquette, and break it, something like that. So protecting knowledge from the things that tarnish it, from the things that oppose good etiquette, and the things that are considered to be bad etiquette. All kinds of things can tarnish your knowledge. If you don't protect knowledge, knowledge will not protect you. And there are so many things the Shaykh mentions. Some of these are haram, some of them are disliked, some of them are not right for a student of knowledge to do. It's enough for us to take the definition of muru'ah from the grandfather, Ibn Taymiyyah, the grandfather. That's not Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. He's called Ibn Taymiyyah, the grandfather. That he said, using that which beautifies a person and adorns him, and avoiding that which spoils him and tarnishes him. So doing the things that beautify you and avoiding the things that spoil you. For example, the clothes you wear makes a difference, right? To a student of knowledge, someone who's serious about seeking knowledge, it makes a difference. I'm not talking about haram. Of course, haram makes a big difference. But something which takes away from your etiquette, where you're seen, the places you go, where you spend your free time. If you allow these things to yourself to be tarnished, to be kind of spoilt by these things, ultimately it's going to affect the knowledge. It's going to affect the knowledge you get. المعقد الثاني عشر انتخاب الصحبة الصالحة له, choosing righteous companions for seeking knowledge. That's very clear. Having people that inspire you and keeping away from those people who pull you down and stop you from seeking knowledge. المعقد الثالث عشر بذل الجهد في تحفظ العلم والمذاكرة به والسؤال عنه. Making an effort in memorization, revision, and asking questions. This is how knowledge is preserved, from these three things. From memorization, revising with your peers, that's what mudhakara means. You're sitting with your classmates and revising, like we were revising before, where we said, who remembers number one, who remembers number two, who remembers number three, like that. And asking beneficial questions. And the quality of the question you ask has a major, major impact upon the amount of knowledge you get. المعقد الرابع عشر إكرام أهل العلم وتوقيرهم. Honoring and respecting the people of knowledge. I'm going to say something to you very important, my dear brothers and sisters, in this. It's really very simple. You have to learn to respect your teachers, even whoever they are, even if it's just a teacher who teaches you in the side of the masjid. If you learn to respect your teachers, that learning will actually carry you on, not just with that teacher, but with every teacher that you learn from. And the teacher will open up to you when they see that you have these good etiquettes and these beneficial etiquettes. Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj said, I'm like a slave to everyone that I heard a hadith from. And he's serving the teacher, helping the teacher, being a good student. This ultimately, you can say, look, today, it doesn't matter. But tomorrow, if you're going to go and sit with one of the senior scholars in Islam, the only way you're going to get knowledge is like that. So you have to have these essential manners. To be humble towards the shaykh, to engage with them, not to turn your back, to bear in mind the etiquette of speaking, not to go to extremes. So don't raise your shaykh to a level that he doesn't belong to, and don't put him down. Supplicate for him. Don't behave as though your teacher's not important. Don't harm your teacher in speech or action. And be gentle when you inform your teacher if he makes a mistake. And if your teacher makes a mistake, be subtle in the way you tell him he made a mistake. Like, you made a mistake. I could just say, Shaykh, ahsan Allahu ilaykum, may Allah bless you. Shaykh, is it like this or like that, Shaykh? So you just, in a subtle way, and things like that. And a very, very beneficial thing is the 6 points the Shaykh mentioned, and we just quickly mentioned this, we're going to pause then for the adhan, insha'Allah ta'ala. Number one, check that there was an error really made. Number two, check that it actually was wrong. Number three, don't follow your teacher if they make a mistake. Number four, make an excuse for them. Number five, offer them advice in a gentle and private way, not aggressively or publicly. And number six, preserve his status such that his honor is not besmirched in the hearts of the Muslims. What I would like us to do, inshallah ta'ala, I think it's a time for the adhan.
Ustad, you can stop when you feel appropriate and we'll go downstairs, inshallah.
No.
You can finish your point, inshallah, Ustad, and then...
When do you normally pray the Jama'ah?
It's
now.
45.
45. Then we'll pray, and after that, we'll come back and just read the last 5 or 6 points. And we'll finish after like 10-15 minutes when we come back, inshallah ta'ala. And then we can take a few questions and we can wrap up, inshallah ta'ala. Does that make sense? Because we want everyone to benefit from the Jama'ah. We learned our knowledge to practice it, right? So let's go and catch the Jama'ah, inshallah ta'ala, whether upstairs or downstairs. I'm not sure where it will be.
You can pray upstairs, inshallah.
We'll pray here.
Yeah.
Inshallah ta'ala. In that case, we will come back and take 10-15 minutes at the end and read the last 15 points, inshallah, the last 5 points or 6 points. And that's what Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for me to mention. Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala abdillahi wa rasulih Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'd. So my brothers, if you remember, we reached about 10 of the principles and the rest we were just reading and making brief comments on them, inshallah. So we reached the 15th, Al-Ma'qid Al-Khamis Ashar. Raddu mushkilihi ila ahlihi. Referring problematic aspects to the people of knowledge. So for example, you're going to come across things that you're going to find difficult. Maybe you're studying by yourself, you're watching a lecture, or you are reading something in a book, and you come across something which you find it to be problematic. Now, is there really anything problematic in the religion of Islam? There isn't. But for us, it seems to us to be something problematic. I don't really understand. Return it to the people of knowledge. My dear brothers and sisters, you're going to find many, many, many times, wallahi, many times, you're going to find something which doesn't match with what you've heard. So what I mean by that is, off you go studying your knowledge and reading your books and attending your lessons, and then a teacher says something, or you read something in a book that is completely against what you've heard so far. Does that mean it's guaranteed to be wrong? No, not necessarily. There's a lot of things that it takes time to understand, and maybe you haven't come across it before. But what do? You highlight it, and you go back to your teacher and you say, I was reading this book and I came across this statement. Perhaps your teacher will say, you didn't understand it properly. Perhaps your teacher will say, no, you have understood it, but this is referring to this or that. Perhaps your teacher will say that this is a different view or a different opinion. But at the end of the day, if you come across something that doesn't seem to you to be correct with what you've heard so far, go back to the people of knowledge and get clarity on it. Al-Ma'qid السادس عشر توقير مجالس العلم وإجلال أوعيته. Respecting the gatherings of knowledge and honoring the things in which knowledge is preserved, meaning books. Knowledge is preserved in books. So respecting the gatherings of knowledge. Sahal ibn Abdullah said, rahimahullah ta'ala, whoever wants to look at the gatherings of the prophets, let him look at the gatherings of the scholars. So you have to respect those gatherings. And you have to respect the way you sit and the way you listen, the way you enter, the way you leave. You see some people fiddling with their hands, some people rocking, some people scraping the carpet, some people checking their phones, some people yawning, some people coughing, and preserving the right of your books. If you believe that this knowledge is so valuable, one of these books is worth more to you than maybe its weight in gold. Treat it respectfully. Don't throw it around. Don't use it to stand things on. Don't just put it on the floor. Even though that putting the book on the floor in the first place is not something necessarily prohibited in of itself. But you know, when you see people disrespectfully, the books are all strewn around, give the books their respect. Take care of them. If the book becomes a page ripped, repair it. Don't allow your books to get wet. Don't allow them to get damaged. Take care of the notes you write in them. One of the most beneficial ways of gathering knowledge is actually to bring your knowledge onto the pages of the book. Now, me personally, I'll be honest, I find it quite hard to write in the margin of a book while the teacher is teaching, because I find that maybe my writing is difficult to understand and I don't always get the point the teacher is making. So what I personally do is write in a notepad, and then I transfer it onto the book after that. So I take my notepads all like that and I go through and I say, yep, this I'm going to write it here. This I'm going to write it here. These days, what I sometimes do is I might even type it and then print it, just to put it in the margin of the book. But the point is that you look after your books and you look after them as the source of that knowledge that you've been given. Because ultimately, you might not remember, and maybe a lot of what I've said today is just filling the gaps. But actually, that book will stay with you. Those notes will stay with you. Is it going to just go on the floor? Is it just going to go in a shelf? Is it just going to be something that you stick in the back of your car and you never remember it again? Or you're going to treat it like something valuable. Give it importance. Look at it again, tidy it up, write your notes out neat. المعقد السابع عشر الذب عن العلم والذود عن حياضه. The 17th principle, defending knowledge and preventing it from attack. There is no doubt that refuting people who oppose knowledge and are in opposition to the Sharia, there is no doubt about that. And my dear brothers and sisters, we're not talking about exaggeration. We're not talking about unnecessary refutations or refutations from people who shouldn't be refuting people. But honestly, refutation is part of what keeps our religion pristine and clean. Because ultimately people know if they're going to come out and say things that oppose the religion, people of knowledge are going to come out and challenge them on those things. That is what keeps our religion, after the grace of Allah and His help, to be pristine and clean. So it's important. At the same time, we don't go to excess in it. We don't have people that are not qualified refuting people. We don't have people going beyond. So if someone makes a mistake of a certain caliber or a certain level, we don't then refute them like someone who left the religion of Islam. We put the person in the proper place. But there's no doubt that our love of knowledge means that we have to speak out if knowledge is disrespected. If the religion is not respected properly, we have to be willing to say, this is not being done properly. Now, obviously, if someone else more knowledgeable than you is available, alhamdulillah. If you find yourself to be the most senior person available to deal with this particular issue, then deal with it in an appropriate way to the issue that is there. And also, forsaking the innovator about the one that there is consensus that he is so. Wallahi, what the Shaykh said here, underline, and then 4 times more underline. The word whom there is consensus that he is so. Or here, maybe the translation is not so accurate. I'm going to put that translation to be corrected. I'm not so happy with that translation. I think the translation would be better as being said. It's to the wrong place. What it should say is that translation is not correct. Let me just get back to it. What it should say is, forsaking the innovator about which there is consensus, as Abu Ya'la al-Farra mentioned. So here the consensus is not the innovator that there is consensus on, it is consensus that you forsake the innovator. What I wanted to highlight here is that the fact that there are people who may differ over someone, whether they are an innovator or not. If we differ on masail in fiqh, do we not differ sometimes over who has crossed that boundary and who has not crossed that boundary? Is it not a mas'ala of tahqiq al-manat, of establishing whether these features are present inside of the person or not present? It is. So you will have times where there is differences of opinion in that. Like, and that's not what the text here says. The text says, forsaking the innovator, comma, about which there is consensus, as Abu Ya'la al-Farra mentioned. Knowledge is not to be taken from the people of innovation unless there is no choice, in which case there is no harm in that, such as the scholars of hadith narrating from some of them. So why did the scholars of hadith narrate from some of them? Because they didn't have that, the hadith was with them and they were convinced the person was telling the truth. Also, rebuking the student who transgresses or shows a severe lack of manners. All of this is part of defending the religion. المعقد الثامن عشر التحفظ في مسألة العالم. Showing restraint when asking the scholars questions. Really, this is really, I feel it's very important. I feel a lot of people fall really short in this issue in our time, and they are not thinking carefully about the question. So the Shaykh tells you, think, why are you asking? That's the first thing. What are you asking about? And is the Shaykh suitable to answer the question? And are you asking in the right way? So 4 things. Why are you asking? Are you asking to show yourself as being above people? Are you asking to belittle the Shaykh? Are you asking to make a problem for the students? Number 1. Number 2, what are you asking about? Are you asking something which is real, which is a real problem, or you're asking these imaginary things? And sometimes people ask you questions and you honestly answer them and say, please tell me, did this ever happen? Because you ask me about something that doesn't happen to anybody. What's the fiqh ruling about this and this and this? You say, just one thing, did it actually happen? Is this something actually happen, or you're just asking? Because a lot of times people are asking about things that just never ever happen. Number 3, who are you asking? Are you asking the right person? Are you asking someone who's qualified in that field to answer that question? Many times, no. Is the Shaykh angry? Is the Shaykh tired? Is the Shaykh trying to leave? Sometimes Shaykh is trying to go out of the door and you've got your head around the back of the door trying to ask him a question, and he's not in a suitable state to answer the question for you. Sometimes somebody comes and says, can I ask you a really quick question? Can you just summarize for me the pillars of Iman with like all the details about what they mean? It's just 2 minutes. He's like, that's like 14 weeks of work. It's not 2 minutes. What you asked me about. So you have to think about, is it the right time? And the way you ask the question, suitable address, suitable words. Sometimes people have to ask about sensitive things, but you have to ask about them in a suitable, befitting and appropriate way. المعقد التاسع عشر شغف القلب بالعلم وغلبته عليه. Having a passion for knowledge and it being uppermost in your heart. Really, if you're truthful about seeking knowledge, you have to love it. You have to have a passion for it. You can't reach the level of knowledge until your greatest pleasure is found in seeking it. Ibn al-Qayyim said, whoever does not allow the pleasure of gaining knowledge and his desire for it to overcome the pleasure of the body and the desire of the soul will never reach the level of knowledge. And that comes back to some points that the Shaykh mentioned, including giving your best effort, being truthful in wanting to seek it, and having correct intention. المعقد العشرون حفظ الوقت في العلم. The 20th and final principle, making use of your time in seeking knowledge. If knowledge is the most honorable goal and your life withers like ice that melts, then real intellect is in making good use of your time and fearing that it will be spent without benefit. And being asked about it. It says asking here, it should say being asked. It's a mistake in the translation. Asking should say, and being asked about it on the day of resurrection. Ibn al-Jawzi said, it is befitting for a person to know the honor of his lifespan and the value of his time, so he does not waste even a moment of it without doing an act of worship, and he puts forward the best in the best and the best, that's not a good translation. He puts forward the best and then the next best of speech and action. He puts forward the best and then the next and then the next and then the next in everything that he says and he does. Muhammad ibn Abdul Baqi Bazzar, he said, I've not wasted even an hour of my time with amusement or play. Now here, Ikhwani, we're not saying that you're never ever gonna, for example, spend some time to take some time away from your books or something like that. But honestly, you're scared of losing your time. You see this as an urgent priority and you're scared of wasting your time. And there's a beautiful line that the Shaykh quotes وَالْوَقْتُ أَنْفَسُ مَا عُنِيتَ بِحِفْظِهِ وَأَرَاهُ أَسْهَلَ مَا عَلَيْكَ يَضِيعُ. Time is the most precious of that which you guard, and I know it to be the easiest thing that you can lose. And then we come to the conclusion. In the conclusion, the Shaykh, he said, here my speech has reached its completion, and it is a good place to break off my speech with a conclusion. O you who has taken a portion of knowledge and sought it, O you who seeks understanding, he said, O you who seeks understanding and its leaders, apply these principles of reverence while you are devoting yourself to the sittings of knowledge. You will find its benefit and you will praise its outcome. Be warned of undervaluing them and being averse to them, for they are the key to knowledge and the stairway to understanding. Through them, knowledge is gathered and established, and by them, the different sciences are attained and made easy. So rise up on the back of hard work and do not become preoccupied with the comforts of wealth. Memorize, may Allah have mercy on you, the statement of Abu Abdullah ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah ta'ala, when he said, the one who seeks to go through to Allah in the hereafter, or in fact to any knowledge, craft and position, such that he becomes a leader in that and others follow him in it, he needs to be brave and valiant, one who is in control of his ideas, not subjugated to his whims, abstaining from everything besides his objective, passionate about that which will direct him towards it, knowing the path that will lead him to it and the paths which will cut him off from it, bold in aspiration, unagitated, such that no one blaming or criticizing him can divert him from his goal, a person of much tranquility, always thinking, not inclined to the pleasure of praise, nor pained by criticism, fulfilling what is needed from the things which bring about aid, unperturbed by those who oppose him. His badge is that of patience. His relief is that of exhaustion. Loving noble manners, guarding his time. He does not mix with people except with caution, like the bird who snatches a seed from among them, maintaining himself in a state of hope and fear, wishing for the results of his choice to specialize beyond what others do, not using any of his senses pointlessly, nor allowing his mind to wander through the levels of the universe. And the core of all of this is to abandon what people usually do and the connection with things that come between you and your objective. That's a beautiful quote. Read it to yourself tonight and think about it a lot. Really, take your time. It's not difficult to understand. Just read it to yourself tonight and think deeply about it. May Allah have mercy on him. What a beautiful reminder and insight. And then the Shaykh, he made dua. Oh Allah, make it easy for us to revere knowledge and honor it, and make us from those who likewise strive for this and achieve it. Oh Allah, we ask you for beneficial knowledge and we seek refuge with you from knowledge that does not benefit. Oh Allah, teach us what will benefit us and benefit us with what you teach us, and increase us in knowledge and action. Oh Allah, give us enough fear of you to come between us and between sinning against you, and enough obedience to you to reach through it your paradise, and enough certainty to make easy the calamities that we face in this world. Oh Allah, let us enjoy our hearing and our sight and our strength for as long as we live, and make them the inheritor from us. Oh Allah, do not make this world our greatest concern, nor the sum of our knowledge, nor the fire our destination, and do not put over us one who will not fear you regarding us, nor have mercy upon us. Ikhwani, that is what Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for me to mention. I don't claim that it was comprehensive. We got about halfway of doing okay, and then we had to summarize. I have only one request from you. Go back and read the book from beginning to end. You'll find translation mistakes. The translation, I found about 10, 15 while I was going. But just go through it and read it and reflect upon it. And if you find something you don't understand, go back to your teachers in this masjid. You have very, very well qualified teachers in this masjid. Go back to those teachers and ask them to explain to you the part that you didn't understand. Most importantly, reflect upon what the author is saying to you, Hafidhahullah ta'ala. Think about it deeply. What is he saying to you? What is he advising you to do? And remember two things. Number one, the amount you revere knowledge, the amount you honor knowledge, that is the amount of knowledge you will get. And remember that we said it's not an absolute, it's relative. The more you do this, the more knowledge you get. The less you do this, the less knowledge you get. Look at yourself, take yourself to account, and strive to implement as many of these principles as you can. You'll see a huge difference in your seeking knowledge and the knowledge that you benefit from, and inshallah ta'ala in the actions that you do. That is what Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for me to mention. With regard to the live stream, we apologize to some of the AMAU live stream. We were kind of had some technical difficulties in the middle, and that's the nature of live streaming. We'll upload the full video later on, inshallah ta'ala. But the nature of it is sometimes things go off and one thing goes off and the other one comes on and all of that. So we did our best. That was what Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for us to mention. What we will do, inshallah, when we do post the video is we'll post it with a proper reading in Arabic, with all of that, you know, the marks on it, the fatha, the dhamma, the kasra, and everything. We're going to post that properly, inshallah ta'ala, along with the book, because it would have been nice to have read it in Arabic. You guys saw that we had a problem. We read it in English and we got halfway through. So if we read it in Arabic, it would have been less. But inshallah ta'ala, we'll post that along with the final video. The full and detailed explanation, we actually have it on Al-Madrasatul Umariyah, on the actual institute itself. It's part of the introduction to studying with AMAU. And if you do join the institute and study, then it's one of the first things that you do in detail all the way through. And I think it's around about 20 or so lessons or something like that. So it's quite a bit more than what we did today, because we go into the explanation of the points and the dalil and the ayat and the ahadith and things like that for each one. But for here, we just try to get the point across, inshallah ta'ala. That is what Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for me to mention. I will say to the brothers that forgive me that I'm a little bit pushed for time this evening. So I'm not going to have as much time as I would like to have. I would love to sit and stay and talk to everyone. And that's what I would normally do, subhanAllah. But I do have a very pressing appointment that I have to go to. So my time is going to be a little bit limited. So forgive me if I don't stay for as long as I would normally stay chatting to everybody, inshallah. That is what Allah Azza wa Jal made easy for me to mention. Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.